Welcome back to the Crochet Crowd. So it's my friends over at Yarnspirations.com. Got a new project for you, and this has been designed by my friend Dela, and she is a great person when it comes to doing Tunisian. So she came up with the concept based on an existing pattern that is on Yarnspirations, and she wondered if the pattern could be done in a Tunisian format instead of a knit format. And for us with crochet, we love our hooks, so this is a great way to try. So what we're going to be doing today is that I'm going to show you how to start the scarf, and I'm going to be using for this particular scarf here, but on camera I'll use something different, but it's just the Red Heart Colorscape, and you'll need 4 balls of this in order to do this particular project. This is such a simple project for you to be able to understand. So if you already know how to crochet, chances are this is going to be really quite awesome because it's really easy. For this kind of project you will need a Tunisian hook that has an extension to it. It has to go 64 inches in distance for the neckline right here. So this is going to get larger and larger, and if you have one that has extensions like this, then you can just extend more onto this. So for this pattern you're gonna start off nice and small just with 4 loops on the hook, and then we're gonna get slightly bigger and we're gonna grow ourselves out. The trick to this is that when you after you get the first section done, it's just a matter of just identifying what you can see on the edges. So if I can just show you here. So you can see that there's 1 loop, 2 loop, 3 loop, and 4 loop. After you physically can see 4 loops, you're gonna bind off for 2 in just the first 2 and then begin the next section, and then you go and do the next section, and then you'll see another 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then bind off again. So it's just a matter of being able to just identify those 4 in order for you to keep going, and this will progressively get larger and larger the more that you do your Tunisian. So you'll see that it has a natural wave to it that's going to go like this, and it's gonna grow out. So what we have that is consistent here is this neckline here, and those are always gonna be 3 only of the knit stitch, and I'm gonna demonstrate for that. So this is a really easy one to do as far as this is concerned. This yarn does a beautiful transition and coloring, and Tunisian really does a really super job in being able to highlight that for you. So the first side here looks like a pair of socks as far as like the knit stitch. The back of this project looks just like regular knitting here. So you'll notice that it's really quite awesome and really easy. So you'll also need an extension to your particular needle here, so to your yarn hook. So you need one that will be able to collect all of these loops. So when you start off, you can just start off a little bit, and then you can add more extensions if you have that in order to gather this, and you can go as large as you want to go with this particular concept, recommending 4 balls in order to have this particular scarf. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to get started, what to look for, and then once we get that done, then you're off to the races, and then you can try one of these on your own. So if you'd like to try, I'm using a 9mm, or you could use a 10mm or an 8mm size crochet hook that is a Tunisian base. This is an Afghan hook. I will need technically one with an extension, but for demonstration purposes I'm just using a straight one here. So I would never be able to do this shawl just using just this section here. I need one with an extension that goes on. So I'm just going to be using a size 9mm hook as mentioned, and I'm going to be using Bernat Homemaker deck in order to demonstrate, because what I need to show you the most is what's going on right in here in this section. So let's get started. I'm gonna pretend that you don't know how to Tunisian at all, so you can fast forward if you know what you're doing at this point. So you're just gonna create a slip knot, and I'm going to show you how to do the knit stitch, which is what you're gonna be using within today's tutorial. And what you need to do is that you need to get yourself started. So in my case, let's just say I'm just gonna do a dry run through. So let's just say we're gonna chain 6. So we're gonna just yarn over, pull through. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's just say that we're doing that. Now to get ourselves established along this chain, what I need to do is that we need to go in the back hump of the chain. So just go in the first one and just go right through the back hump of the chain, and then yarning over and pulling it through, and leave it on the hook. You just slide it down past the throat of there so that you get the right thickness. This thickness is what matters. So you're just gonna yarn over and pull through. So you just keep collecting those chains. So we started off with 6 chains. So how many stitches or loops should we be left on the hook? It should be 6. It's not like regular crochet where you chain 6 and then second chain from the hook and then you lose a stitch. So this case, whatever you chained with should be the same number of loops. To do the return pass, you're going to yarn over and pull through the first loop only. That's considered a chain 1. Then you're gonna yarn over and pull through 2, and you'll do that all the way back. So yarning over, pulling it through 2, 2, 2, and 2. So normally in crochet, whenever you go to start something, you chain first and then go across. This case, because it's Tunisian, you chain 1 on the opposite side before you do the return pass of going back to getting just 1 loop. So let me show you how to do the knit stitch. So you'll see that there is verticals that are going up, so vertical strands. So let me just get my pencil here. So you'll notice that there's vertical strands right here. So what you want to do is you want to play with those. If you go through the vertical strand just through it and to the other side, let me just grab a smaller hook. If you go through the strand and go to the other side, that would be considered a simple stitch. But each one of these strands are made up of 2 that are going straight up and down. Do you see this one in the back? Right there. So if you go straight through this and between where those legs are of the stitch and right to the back of the project, that is a knit stitch. So then the next one, just straight back. Okay, do you see how it's separating those strands? So there's such thing as that you can go between the stitches. That's completely different. We don't want to do that. We always want to kind of split the legs and go straight out. Now with particular Tunisian, on the end, see how there's no vertical that is there? So on the end you always have to go into a regular stitching look. So see how there's 2 strands on top of the hook? You always have to go through there. So never just go through 1 because it'll never look right. Always go through 2 like this. So let's try it with our hook. Let's put this back on. Okay, so we're not gonna yarn over first. We're just gonna immediately start in the first leg. So this one you never have to worry about, this first one. So separating the legs, just going straight back and yarning over and pulling it through and move it down the throat of your hook. So do you see the next one? See, there's the front one, there's the back one. So just straight back through and pick up. See the next one? And then through the next one. So the very end, remember what I promised? So the very end you have to treat it like it's a regular stitch. So just going through, making sure that there's 2 strands on top that make up that one, and yarning over and pulling it through. Now the return pass, as I said before, is always the same. So you're just gonna yarn over and pull through the first loop, and then yarning over, pulling it through the 2, and you'll do 2 all the way back. Let's do one more row of this and then we'll get started on our project. So now that you're getting this established, do you see the first one? So you don't worry about this one here. So the very first one is right straight back through here, and then the next one is through here and through here. So if you just pick up one and just stay to the front side, that's a simple stitch. It's completely different. So let's do that. So we're just gonna go in, just split the legs and go right to the back of the project and pull through, and then going through the next, and you'll really see the knitting coming up. Now the knit stitch is a lot tighter than regular simple crochet or simple Tunisian, so it's not the same. So you just can't bounce easily between these kind of stitches. So the very end, remember that we're gonna treat it like it's a regular stitch, keeping 2 strands on top and then yarning over, pulling it through, and then do a return pass. So yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2 and 2 and 2. So you can see that it's now starting to pick up, and you can see that the Tunisian knit stitch is showing its wonderful work. So that's how you would do the Tunisian knit. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be adding a second factor into this so that you can create the gap. And let's go back to the project and I'll show you what we mean, and then we're gonna get started. So when we get started, what we're going to do is that there will be 4 loops on the hook, and 3 of them will be this here, this next section, that'll always be on this side of the work. So if I had my Tunisian like this, this will always be in the end of the Tunisian. It will never be over here. And so the first 3 will always be this, and then there will be a space here that will create, and this will constantly get wider and wider and wider. So we're gonna be increasing by 1 stitch every few rows, and then every now and then once you see the 4 that's up on the side, then you'll do a decrease of 2 stitches in order to create that look. So let's begin to do that next. In the next part of this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to get started, and I'm gonna be using a stitch marker so that you can see what you need to do. Now technically, as an experienced crocheter, I don't need to have that in there. It's gonna appear really fumbly as I show you that, but I think in the very beginning, if you can start identifying what you need to do, a stitch marker is a great way for you to start, and then once you can see how it's working out and identify what you're looking at, then you can probably do away with it. So I'm gonna get a stitch marker that is easier to see than this one, and then what I'm gonna do is that we're gonna get you started on this particular sample, and just grab a spare piece of yarn and just a separate crochet hook that is smaller than this one here, and then we're gonna be playing with that. So let's get started. Okay, so let's begin. We're gonna create a slip knot to start, and we're starting the real project right now. So make sure that you do use your ones with the extension, not a straight Afghan hook here. So let's begin, and we're gonna have a crochet hook that's handy, and I got a stitch marker to go, and we're gonna be playing with that in just a few moments. So what we're going to do is that you need to chain 4. So let's start. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're gonna get started, and just like regular, so just turn it to the back hump of the chain and just going in and picking it up and yarning over, pulling it through, and keep it on the hook and shove it down the shaft of your Tunisian Afghan hook. So going in, pull through and hold. And how many loops should you be left? If you started with 4, there should always be 4 to start. That's just the rules of Tunisian here that we're having today. So we're gonna return pass. So that was called a forward pass because the hook was going in the forward, and now we're gonna go in this direction, which is the return pass. To return, it's always gonna be the same. We're gonna yarn over, pull through the first loop only, and then continue, yarn over, pull through 2, and you'll continue that one all the way back. And then we're gonna get started on our very first one. So I already showed you how to do a knit stitch. So what I want you to do to get started is that I want you to create, we're gonna create the space which creates the neckline look. So in order to do that, we're gonna yarn over, and this is gonna create a space, and then we're gonna go into the very first knit stitch, or the first stitch, okay, knit stitch style. So just going straight back and then yarning over, picking it up and pulling it through. Before you continue, what I want you to do is that I want you to grab your stitch marker and a spare hook, and just after you did the yarn over and before you did this one of 3, you want to put the stitch marker right in between here. So more and more stitches will get onto this hook before you get to this particular part of the process. So it's just after you yarn over going into the final 3, and you want to come in, and I'm just gonna come from the back just for it's easier at this moment, and just pull a section of that through. You can do clip-ons if you want to, but I want to kind of follow that through. So the very final 3 stitches across, which is already this one plus the next one, so it's a knit stitch, and the end is like I showed you before, it looks like a chain. So you're just gonna go in, grabbing the 2 strands on top, yarning over, pulling it through. Now to return pass is always the same. We talked about that. So we're gonna yarn over, pull through the first one, and so I'm not worried about anything at this moment. I just want to return. So yarning over, pulling it through 2 and 2 and 2 and 2, and now we're gonna begin the next one. So we're going to start up the next one, and you see where the stitch marker is. So you can see that's where the gapping space is gonna be between the final 3 stitches that you have and this side of the shawl. So we have 1 stitch that is now existing which didn't exist before, so we go into that stitch as a knit stitch. So yarn going in, pulling it through, and then the next one here is the last one of 3. But before we have to do that, we have to yarn over first and then go into the first one of 3. And just do that one first and then hold. So now this here is the first one of the final 3. I want you to put your stitch marker through there. Do you see that? So I like old yarn for this kind of stuff. So just pulling it through. So I'm not pulling the stitch marker all the way through. I'm just pulling it just a section so that you can follow it. So last time there was 2 loops here. Now there are 3. And now I'm gonna finish the final 2. Okay, the ending is just like the regular chain or the regular stitch, and now return pass is always the same. Yarn over, pull through 1, and then go 2s all the way back. So what I'm looking for is that I'm looking for 4 sides to be done. Okay, so I got 1, 2, and 3. So I'm not ready to do my indentation yet. So we're gonna do one more row. So I'm gonna start off in my next one. So just going in, the knit stitch, pulling it through. And this one always looks kind of awkward because you did a yarn over. So do you see it there? Just straight in, like there. And now we're gonna yarn over and then go into the first one here of the 3. Okay, and now we're going to place in your stitch marker again. Once you can identify this, you don't have to use these stitch markers, and then finish off those final 2 that are left. So yarning over, pulling it through 1, and then do your 2s all the way back. So let's take a look at the side. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I'm gonna do the indentation in. So knit stitch style binding off. So just going in, doing the knit stitch, just go in, pull through, and then pull through the loop completely, and then do the next one. So in, pull through the loop, and through. And now that just changed where you're starting. So now we're gonna start again the next section. So now let's begin. So you start off and you knit stitch the next one like there, and then yarning over, and do you see that this is where the stitch marker is? So we yarn over and go into the next one, and then pull your stitch marker through. It seems really cumbersome, but if you can identify it, which I can, and you'll be able to as well, that you'll quit using that. So then you do the final 2. So what I'm looking for is 4 more to be finished up on the side. So yarning over, pulling it through 2, and go 2s all the way back. Okay, so let's start the next one. So just immediately start the knit stitch, go into the next one, and the stitch marker is now existing. Do you see it there? So that means you have to yarn over and go into the next one, pull through, so I gotta go from the front. So you'll notice that because you're eliminating stitches when you do the bind off, it takes a little bit longer to get wider. So if you don't want any of the sawtooth kind of look, don't bind off then. Just keep it. You are the creator, you are the master of your own crochet destiny, I suppose. Once you get to the end, yarn over, pull through 1, and keep doing that all the way back. So how many rows do you see done up since this saw thing? So you see 1, 2, so I got 2 more to do. So going into the first one, next one, okay, next one, and there's the stitch marker. So I'm gonna just yarn over and go into the one right after that. So I'm gonna leave my stitch marker and keep on going. So if you want to keep moving your stitch marker, you can. So just yarn over, pull through 1, and all the way back. So you can see that you got 3 rows up. So starting in the next one, and keep going until you get to that yarn over space that is created. Okay, and then yarn over, in, okay, and then yarn over, pull through 1 and then 2 all the way back. And as it gets bigger and bigger, you'll see this stuff really turning out awesome. So you can see now 1, 2, 3, this is the 4th. So you're gonna bind off. So just knit stitch, pull through and through. And that's how you bind off the whole thing at the very end. You just pull through and through as a knit stitch and then start the next section. So starting immediately in the next one and start picking them up. And yarning over, going in. So do you see how easy this is? It's actually, once you understand it, it just becomes really quite simple. Okay, just start the next one. So you see it takes a while for the width to really start expanding out. And if in doubt, just kind of pull up on it and you can see how things are working out. So that yarn over the next one. And yarn over, pull through 1, go all the way back. So you will notice that this will start developing a curve as you're getting bigger. And then start your next one. So I decided to use a solid color. I find it's easier to teach with a solid color. It may be a little bit harder to identify when it's a mixed color, but that's kind of the fun of it, right? As you learn as you go and try new ideas. So I'm essentially just looking for the 4 rows to be complete. So you don't hear me counting any rows. I'm just looking so I can see 1, 2, 3 so far, and this will be the 4th. So if I were you and you were me, when you're ready to bind off at the very end of this project, I would bind off on once you see the 4 rows complete, and I would bind off all the way across. See, I'm second guessing myself on that one there, and that does happen. Oh, there it is. So I was looking for the back piece there, which I never saw just a few moments ago. So when in doubt, you know, it's Tunisian, you can pull out pretty easily without much harm done to your project. And then go back. So knitting for me, I like the look of knitting. I get really frustrated with knitting because I drop stitches because I'm not that careful. And this is a great way to have the knitting look without all the fuss, and you can still enjoy your crochet hook. So once I see that there's 4 rows complete, so 1, 2, 3, 4, I then decrease by 2, so bind off 2. So you just bind off knit style, so just through and through. And when you're ready for the end of this project, so Dela was suggesting 64 inches in the neckline, so this is the neck. So once you get to 64, then you can start binding off. But once you're binding off, you can bind off all the way to the end, and then that will conclude your project. I would also, when you're doing the bind off, I would consider doing that yarn over as well. Just to make sure that you get that same look, and then continue on. So as long as you keep like slip stitching across, and then that would be the end of the project, just like that. So you can see that as you got bigger the knit stitch really started to appear. So it starts off kind of small and then it gets a little bit more, and when you have a great project like that it's awesome. So you can see how it looks consistent. So once you understand this section here you can do away with the stitch marker and all would be good. So this would be how you would do this particular project. Until next time, it's Mikey on behalf of the Crochet Crowd. So it's my friends over at Yarnspirations.com.